Welcome everyone to the fourth session in our Full Steam Ahead, and it's a partnership between COVE, the Center for Ocean Ventures and Entrepreneurship, and Ship to Shores. We have some special guests this afternoon, and we're introducing Greg Trowse and Allie Flower. Hi, and Seán Dagher. While we meet today on a virtual platform, we would like to begin by acknowledging the indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility to improving relationships between nations and improving our own understanding of local indigenous peoples and their cultures. Ship to Shores aim to encourage collective introspection about the current relationships between indigenous and non-indigenous communities and people of the marine sector. And I just realized I'm not sharing my screen, so I'll go ahead. Apologies for that. A little about Ship to Shores. We aim to connect young people with Canada's marine sector and sailing through arts and culture, workforce development, civic engagement and history, and heritage. The project has engaged over 2,300 youth across the country since 2020. About COVE, our partners, located in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, COVE encourages innovation within the ocean sector. Through their workforce development strategy, they engage in strengthening pathways to careers in the blue economy. And we're excited to be partnering with COVE in the Full Steam Ahead series. So for today's guests, for the first segment, I'm going to introduce Greg and Allie, and they're going to present until about 1:30 thereabouts, and we'll have 10 minutes or so for Q&A. And you can post your questions in the chat. I'll read them out and they'll respond. Greg is an oceanographer, professional engineer, and waterman with over 20 years experience, including in the most recent decade, focused on assisting the development of the tidal energy industry in Nova Scotia. Allie is a mate and content specialist with Luna Sea Solutions and considers herself a full-fledged ocean fanatic, having fallen in love with the ocean at a young age while working on her father's whale watching company, with her father's company. She went on to pursue studies in sciences and marine environment. So over to you now, Greg and Allie.
Cool. Thanks a lot for the great intro. You covered a lot of the things I was planning to say off the start.
Okay, great.
So so as you said, I'm an oceanographer. I've been working, in the oceanographic sector for about a decade. Prior to that, I was doing environmental engineering as a consultant. A lot of our work is focused on research projects associated with tidal energy development in Nova Scotia. And our focus in that has been some community scale tidal energy projects down in the Digby region of Nova Scotia, in particularly Grand Passage and Petit Passage. We've done a lot of work on site assessment, which is characterizing the physical and biological characteristics at a site. So like what's happening with the tides, seabed conditions, what sorts of animals live there, as well as working closely with the community to make sure that we're planning around local use and traditional Mi'kmaq use of the waterway as well. In the last year, actually right around this time last year, we made a move of our head office to Lunenburg. Basically loving it here. It's a fantastic town, and that's where we met Allie and her family, who have been doing a lot of work in this region for a while. And some of our work is now branched out into doing some research around great white sharks, which is a lot of fun. So in terms of you know, thinking about some questions. I mean, basically anything you want to ask about tidal energy, you could like point it my way. And sharks, Allie.
I'll try to answer as best I can.
Yeah, and it's pretty snowy in Lunenburg today. I'm going to take you just quickly to kind of show you the Lunenburg waterfront because it is really beautiful. And so while we're inside the office instead of on a boat today, you can see there's some nice big snowflakes falling over at the wharf there. Basically, lobster season is going to start in a few days, as soon as, yeah, potentially on Monday. So the lobster traps are all stacked up. But yeah, so since we're not on the water today, what our plan is to do a little bit of show and tell, where we'll show you some of the gear that we use for different purposes in our research, and then we'll roll a little video showing it in action on the water.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My turn.
Yeah, anything you want to say before we get into it?
I'm just going to introduce myself again. I'm Allie Flower. Really reiterate what's already been said, but I work for Luna Sea Solutions as a boatmate and content specialist. My boatmate duties include running research and supporting vessels to go check wave buoys, take measurements of like tidal flow in where were we? Petite Passage. Handle lines, all that jazz. And content specialist, help work with the app by finding locations of interest like beaches, boat launches, etc., to plug into Luna Ocean's app. So.
Yeah, cool. I forgot to mention that as well. We're developing an online platform for data access. So if you go to a website, it's lunaoceans.com, and that'll kick you over to it, and you can see wave conditions, river levels, including in Ontario, tides, and things like that. So, what's your favorite thing we did this year?
Just the shark stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely the shark stuff. We weren't using hooks and not technically fishing for great whites. Was it October we did that? We went up for about a week, and we targeted great whites to get video footage to identify not different species, but different animals. And we used actually our Gemini multi-beam imaging sonar to help us see sharks come in with before our video cameras did underwater. So this was a huge asset when trying to find great whites just off our coast here. And we're starting to learn more and more about the behaviors. So
So this tool it's called a multi-beam imaging sonar, and it's called multi-beam. There's approximately 500 acoustic beams that send out pulses of energy or sound, really high frequency sound, that bounce off of things in the water column and then come back to it. It essentially works like dolphin or harbor purpose echolocation. So this is more or less the best humans have come to replicating that ability in animals in the marine environment, and it can be used to see things using sound out to about 50 meters underwater. So as Allie mentioned, we used it for seeing great whites quite a ways out before they came in, and to see how they would interact with bait. Like sometimes they would circle around it and be quite inquisitive before they started taking bites at it. But our main purpose for that technology is using it to evaluate potential interactions between marine animals and tidal turbines. In particular, at a location in the Minas Passage, which is known as the Force Site, underwater visibility is maybe about as far out as I can hold my hand, so cameras aren't super effective, but technologies like this have a lot of promise, but they haven't been fully demonstrated to the point where regulators are confident in them, and we don't have really efficient methods for data analysis. So people like Allie spend a lot of time going through the data and recording times that we see animals doing different behaviors. So I think with that, we can roll the first video that shows us taking the Gemini out and having a look at a local shipwreck.
Hi, I'm Greg Trowse.
And I'm Allie Flower.
And I'm an oceanographer.
And I am mate and content specialist for our Luna Oceans app and the social media.
Yeah, and today we're aboard one of our wee but mighty research vessels called the Puffin. Hey, Allie, what do you like to do at work?
Anything on the water and on the mighty Puffin.
Cool, let's go for a little tour.
All right.
What do we got up here?
So we have a cuddy for storage and the computers.
Nice. Okay, what's
Here we have
this?
a drop camera.
all right, what are we gonna do with that today?
We are going to lower it overboard and hopefully get pictures or video footage of the Saguenay shipwreck.
Tritech Gemini, multi-beam imaging sonar. And what's it do?
Basically, allows us to see what a dolphin sees.
Yeah, it uses echolocation. So it sends out little pings of sound that then bounce off things and return to it. And we'll see images on the computer. And all right, we're on site now, just a couple nautical miles off of Blue Rocks, Nova Scotia, on a lovely foggy day. And we're going to do some equipment testing with the Tritech Gemini. This is an imaging sonar, and we're going to use it to look at a shipwreck. This is our drop camera. It has a GoPro camera inside, and the cable can send power down to the camera and the data back up so we can see it on the boat. We're going to put it in and see if we can get a shot of it.
I just got some really good footage of the Saguenay.
Wow. We just had a super successful day on the water, testing our gear and get some incredible shots of the shipwreck. But our favorite part of work is when we combine it with getting wet and having fun. They're gonna surf with you.
Look, see, look at this. Yeah. He's checking us out. Look at him.
Did you get a shot?
Oh, yeah.
It's swimming circles around the boat.
Coming up. Oh, there he is. Until next time, keep on curling it, ocean lovers.
All right. Well, thanks, Michael. That's the first video.
Hi, I'm Greg Trowse.
And I'm Allie.
Yeah, thanks. Cool. So yeah, as you can see, we like to have a bit of fun on the water. It's certainly one of the perks of our job. There's, you know, long hours on the water as well as dealing with data. But it's good to love what you do, and working outside and on boats is where we want to be most of the time. So it's that way. Our reason for going out and doing the imaging of the shipwreck, which actually Allie's uncle Bill, and I think maybe your dad was involved as well.
We're involved in the sinking.
Yeah, we're involved in the sinking of that old war vessel just outside of Lunenburg as a scuba diving attraction. So yeah, so it makes like a really cool test site for us to go out and like basically test equipment and practice techniques and work on getting better at data collection. Yeah, so that was good. So if you have any questions on the multi-beam stuff, you can ask that later on. We're going to move on to another piece of technology here. This is a wave buoy made by a company called Sonar Ocean. It's called the Spotter. It's quite a small wave buoy. You connect it to a mooring, and you look just on the ground behind us here. There's a mooring ball and some ropes and things like that. And this is a wave buoy that we're planning on deploying in St. Margaret's Bay sometime in the next few days. So that's why we've got the mooring all laid out and ready. And the data will be accessible through lunaoceans.com on our website for local water users, fishermen and boaters. And the place that it's going is actually the site of the World Championship?
Yeah, World Championship next summer.
For sailing dinghies, like lasers and stuff, or yeah, anyway, one of the classes of the World Champions. So hopefully it'll provide really useful data for that. We already have one wave buoy out that's just outside of Cross Island, which is about 9 nautical miles, which is roughly like 16 kilometers or so outside of Lunenburg. And a friend of ours is a professional videographer, and he tagged along for the deployment and did a really cool video for us and interviewed some of the local water users, including the captain of the Blue Nose and a local fisherwoman and Allie's dad. So that's all in the next video, so we can roll that whenever you're ready, Michael.
So living in Nova Scotia, I mean, if we drive about an hour in any direction, you hit the water. It's well known as Canada's ocean playground, and to best enjoy that, we need access to information. A lot of the wave buoys that people have access to right now are pretty far offshore, and there's a few clustered around the entrance to Halifax Harbour for obvious reasons. There's a lot of shipping going in and out of there, but in the more rural parts of Nova Scotia, where there's tons of boating activity, there's just no nearshore buoys. So the Cross Island Wave Buoy it's a buoy that we bought. We didn't build it. It's really amazing technology because, I mean, it's recording its motion. So it's going up and down with the short and longer period waves and just riding them out and then sending the data via satellite. And within a matter of 5 seconds, you know, I can pull up my cell phone and see what's going on out just off Cross Island.
You have to understand that in District 33, we get to fish from here, from the dock to about 50 nautical miles offshore. So we have not had any place to check what's going on in that midshore range where we're fishing. And so with the deployment of having a buoy just off Cross Island, for example, it's going to give us like a vast amount of information to work with, and then we can plan our fishing activity around it.
Trying to forecast waves is, can be tough at best of time. There's Buoy at LaHaye Bank, which is about 70 or 80 miles offshore, which is good information, but it doesn't really give you local information. So the location that just east of Cross Island there is going to be great. With a good app, you'll be able to check your phone hourly with updates. Know before you go. It's going to be invaluable, for not just surfers, but for anybody who spends time on the water, on the sea.
Our forecast area, southwestern shore, goes from Halifax down to Cape Sable Island. So if the forecast is off by 100 miles, which they may consider fantastic forecasting when something is 1,000 miles away, makes a huge difference to us here. So having a weather buoy, out in the middle of that, easily accessible, by the Luna Oceans app, that means that all the recreational boaters can get live real-time reports of what's going on, and not in the shelter of Mahone Bay or Chester or Lunenburg, but in the middle of all that.
We're oceanographers, we're professional mariners, and we love playing in the ocean. So we really built the app that we wanted. Basically, the dream is to continue this around the coast, working with different communities, different harbor authorities, and fill the gaps in existing data sets.
Cool, thanks. And just to show it, this is the Luna Oceans app, which you access just by going to website lunaoceans.com or lunaoceans.app, and you can pull this up. And the icon right here is the Cross Island Wave Buoy. So I just touch that, and then it should pull up some plots, which is actually really, really good wave conditions. I was out this morning with Walter surfing in the snow, and the waves were a little bit bigger. You can see that they're kind of trending down. It was around 11 or 12 feet at 13 seconds, which means that waves were twice as big as I was. So I basically got rocked, but I got one or two. It was super fun. So the wave buoy has been out since June, and it made it through a couple hurricanes and big nor'easter. And a week or so ago, we went out to do some basic maintenance on it. And we also deployed a little receiver, which will pick up any fish that have been tagged. So one of the ways of studying fish movement is to implant little acoustic telemetry devices in them that send out a ping. And this receiver will listen to them. So if any fish that have been tagged swim by, then it'll pick it up. And we can go straight into that video because it explains all of what I'm kind of talking about right now.
Hey, I'm Greg, and I've been thinking we should start sharing a bit more information on what we do as oceanographers. So myself and Allie, who's behind the camera right now, are heading out and checking our wave buoy that's just off across island. It's been out, it's been a couple months since we've had a look at it. So we're gonna go out and take a look on the lines, see if there's any wear, anything that we should be replacing before the winter comes in. It's made it through some big storm events, you know, like 20 feet waves at 20 seconds, like with Hurricane Sam and a big nor'easter. So we're gonna go take a look and see how she's doing. We're also today, we're gonna install this receiver. It's from the Ocean Tracking Network. It picks up, so it's a listening device that picks up active transmissions off any tagged fish. That'll go probably within about 500 meters of our buoy, and it should pick them up. So we're gonna head out and yeah, share some of the experience along the way. For any tagged fish swimming by.
You remove the magnet to turn it on.
Yeah. And then we give you swipe. I'm not sure where we're supposed to swipe. Maybe don't record this because I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I did that wrong.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I was just saying thanks for rolling that. And yeah, even though we're in the office today, that shows a pretty good example of a day on the water doing like relatively light work, you know, with the buoy and things like that. No heavy lifting on that day, but basic service and maintenance and data retrieval on a piece of gear. So we're starting to get close to when we're going to start the Q&A period, but I want to show one more piece of technology before we with a really short 1-minute video. So some of our tidal energy work that we've learned based in Nova Scotia that we've been doing over the last decade, we're now transitioning to remote sites in the Canadian North, and in particular working with remote Indigenous communities. And we're developing technologies that we can put into the hands of the local knowledge holders so that they can collect data in their locations of interest. And one of the things that we're doing, I'll hold out this one, is using DJI drones. So like consumer level drones, the same ones you can kind of get at Walmart or Best Buy or something like that. This is the Mavic 2, and I can't remember if that's a tiny one.
The DJI Mini 2.
Yeah, to fly over tidal channels or rivers and essentially point the camera straight down and then have something drifting in the water. We did our initial experiment with pumpkins, which was tons of fun. We might still do that again. But right now we're working with communities in the north that have a lot of ice flowing by. So we can just hover a drone over top, watch ice go past, and based on the height of the drone and the angles from the camera, we can work out the scaling of that image and figure out how fast the flows are going. So the last video we're gonna roll is showing a Indigenous operator in Rigolet, which is part of Nunatsiavut. Just kind of northern Labrador, essentially, is where it's located, and he did some data collection for us with us last spring. So you can roll that one, please, Michael. The rarest ocean animal. Cool. Yeah, I see some questions rolling in that we're excited about. So maybe we should get into that.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. Obvious that fun is a huge part of what you do, and you're loving it. I have some questions. Well, one comment from Gabrielle was that Gabrielle actually sailed the laser radicals at one point. So that's awesome. And from the class, here's a question. Have you had any encounters with sharks?
Yes. So working down in the Outer Bay of Fundy, around Briar Island and Long Island, porbeagle sharks are quite common, and we regularly see them when we're doing work. And then just outside of Lunenburg here, working with Allie and her family, we did some research specifically around great white sharks this year, and we saw, well, some of the scientists we were working with is still working it out from all the images to try and figure out how many different animals we saw, but we had at least 10 encounters. Yeah, yeah, and the sharks, these whites, were at least 12-foot whites, quite large animals, and in really close to the boat. Yeah, which might be the subject of an upcoming documentary. Part of what we were doing when we're out there was actually filming a pilot. So hopefully that takes off. We'll see.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Okay. What is your goal with the buoys? How long do you think it will take to accomplish?
Yeah, so the goal with the buoy, some of the goals are being accomplished as soon as we deploy it in terms of providing data to mariners. Like I use the buoy today, so did Walter, so did basically everybody in the Nova Scotia surf community use the buoy today. Longer term, we're working on coming up with a financial model that'll work to deploy more buoys, working with more fishermen, harbor authorities, and water users, potentially through a crowdfunding campaign to deploy buoys where people want them. And it both provides that immediate data that people need, real-time conditions in the ocean, as well as we want to leverage that into longer-term research projects where we look at the effects of some of the big storms on the coastline. So that one is like a multi-year project, potentially decades, coupled with providing data that people need right away.
Okay. Another question, where have you traveled during this work?
You want to go first?
Where?
Well, I'll go first, and then Allie can say where she's going soon. So I've traveled a fair bit in the UK, in Ireland and Scotland. There's a lot of tidal energy development there, so I've traveled that way. And then a lot of my work has been in Nova Scotia. Really, over the last decade, we've focused a lot at home in trying to advance things with the tidal energy industry here in Nova Scotia. This winter, it looks like we'll be going to Buoy on the west coast to work with First Nations there. But Allie's got the really fun trip coming up that she can mention.
Yeah, so I am waiting to leave, waiting on the next weather window. We need about 3 days to leave Lunenburg and head to the Cape Cod Canal. But I'm sailing south on my father's sailboat, and I'm planning to expand the Luna Oceans app by marking beaches, boat launches, harbors down the eastern seaboard, and all the way to the Bahamas. So I'll be gone ideally from December until April, plotting points as I go.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. What is the rarest ocean animal you've encountered?
For me, it would be the North Atlantic killer whale. Orcas are really, really rare on the East Coast. And there's one sort of resident orca, his name is Old Tom. He's that rare, he's named and known, he's a legend. And he got separated from his pod when he was, we think when he was quite young, because he's been coming around for like somewhere between 10 to 20 years, and actually hangs out with a pod of dolphins, which is interesting because dolphins could otherwise be food for killer whales. So he's decided that dolphins are friends, not food. And they all hang out together and hunt fish. Yeah, what about yourself?
That's kind of tough. So I've seen any three technically endangered species.
Right.
Like the great whites are an endangered species. I've seen a North Atlantic right whale and a cap, mother and a cap, as well as a leatherback sea turtle, which I spotted when I was just a young little girl. And whenever you see any endangered animal, usually report it to who you report those to.
I can't remember. Usually there's an association for each endangered animal.
Yeah, and they ended up naming that turtle after me. So, yeah, that's a different.
Awesome, thank you. You mentioned dolphins. How often do you see those often, I should ask?
In the Outer Bay of Fundy, absolutely. Like in the months of sort of July through September, it would be pretty common to see Atlantic white-sided dolphins. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What is the most intimidating situation you've encountered or you've been in?
I immediately think weather when I hear that.
Yeah, definitely. The ocean is not to be messed with. So yeah, intimidating. Yeah, it can happen quick. I mean, actually for me, it was lobster fishing. My first year lobster fishing, we were out hauling gear in 40-knot winds, waves bigger than the boat, and we took one over the stern of the boat, which is a really bad situation, and it filled the whole thing. And there's lobster everywhere. Like we already had probably like 5,000 pound of lobster on the boat, and they're just swimming everywhere trying to get me. And then another wave hit the bow, and the life raft actually broke loose and went flying and hit me. So everything just, you can go from like things are good to just chaos so quickly with the weather. It's a good point. That and anytime you have an entangled animal. I've been around entangled humpbacks and entangled white shark, and an entangled leatherback turtle. So those situations can be quite intimidating, and you just need to kind of stay calm and work through it.
Okay. And another question, what inspired you to get into this field?
Well, I'm a Nova Scotian. I was born here. I've left for work a couple times. I was living out in Calgary doing other things and decided to move home. And when I did, tidal energy was, it was about 10 years ago, and people were talking about tidal power. And I decided to go back to school and get my master's in oceanography so I could contribute to that industry. And we're still working in tidal, but it's just sort of evolved, like after spending 10 years on the water and doing science and fishing and things like that to get involved in new things.
Yeah, and myself, I'm still relatively new to this field, but I grew up in beautiful little Lunenburg, so just on the coast, on the water all the time. I grew up, picking up green crabs with and sea stars with my net just on the local fishing docks, to going whale watching every day with my old man. So anything in and on the water, I'm super passionate about.
Awesome, thank you. And I have a comment from Gabriel. It sounds like a wonderful trip, your upcoming plans.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. And another question, I think is the final question we have. Oh, we have two more. Do you enjoy your work?
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. And in what projects do you wish to participate in the future?
Oh, there's a whole wide range of them. Yeah. Big picture, we're working on developing a ocean center here in Lunenburg, with both like public access and seminars and things like that. But in terms of like actual research projects, we need to get tidal power to shore in Nova Scotia. That's one of our main priorities in the next couple of years, along with effective environmental monitoring alongside it. I really hope that the shark research takes off. And another thing that I'm really interested in is sustainable food sources from the sea. And that kind of leads itself towards what's called multi-trophic aquaculture, which is growing shellfish like mussels, clams, scallops, oysters, all those kind of fun things alongside different types of seaweed into basically like, well, an ocean garden. I want an ocean garden, but that might be take a few years to get it going.
Okay, thank you. And this final question is for Greg. Well, have you worked in another organization to preserve ocean life?
Sorry, what was the question?
Have you worked in another organization to preserve ocean life?
Yeah, well, so Lunacy Solutions is our company that focuses kind of on tech development, but I'm also a director of a not-for-profit organization called Sustainable Oceans Applied Research, or SOAR, and that's one of our main focuses is on ocean sustainability and marine animals.
Okay, thank you. The questions keep coming in. Where could we see the videos or potential pilot? Are they online?
The videos that we showed, you can check out our Instagram account, which is lunacy_solutions. Yeah, you can find us on Instagram. You can also just go to our website, lunacy.solutions, and find a link to our Instagram account, which is also through our app. So yeah, Instagram's good, as well as Vimeo. We can happy to provide those links, and Michael has them as well, so you can send them around.
Yep, yeah, I'll send them all.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, Michael. We have another question is, what experiences have you had with turtles?
I've had a situation where a leatherback turtle's been entangled in a mooring line, and got away fine. We both survived, me and the turtle. It's a happy ending. It's a half-hour story, so I'm just gonna say it had a happy ending, but it was difficult. I ended up wrestling a turtle, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've an entangled turtle myself. I've seen a couple of swimming off our coast here.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty rare to see, turtles. Yeah.
I think I've seen them.
Yeah.
In my life, and not so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. From the number of questions, it's obvious that the class, you've sparked the curiosity and interest through your presentation. So thank you so much. And I think the classroom wants to say, students want to say a big thank you for your presentation.
Thanks for the opportunity. It was great talking with you.
Awesome. And we're going to move on. We're going to pivot to Seán Dagher, and just a renowned shanty singer. And I'll just turn it over to you, Seán, and you can introduce yourself and flow into the next session. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So, yes, as was said, I'm known for singing shanties. My background before I really got into doing sea shanties was generally just being a folk singer. I play a lot in Irish pubs and Celtic music, but I've also done Arabic music and Quebecois folk music and medieval music, and I've done a lot of work with sort of early classical music, 17th, 18th century, and a lot of the work I did before was mixing folk music with sort of earlier classical music. So that's why I have different instruments here that I use for different things, and it sort of goes on all different things. And when I started doing sea shanties, everyone knows a few, right? Drunken Sailor and South Australia. When I was playing in pubs, I realized that anytime there's a line in a song that the audience has to sing back, like in the Black Velvet Band, you'd think she was queen of the land, and everyone goes, and she was. And those are big hits. And then I realized, wow, there's a whole genre of music that is based around someone hollering back, in South Australia I was born, and everyone says, heave away, haul away, in South Australia around Cape Horn, bound for South Australia. And there are hundreds of these songs that are all built that way. So I learned more and more of them for performing in any sort of environment where that was called on, basically most of my gigs. And then I got pretty lucky in 2012, I got hired to sing on a video game called Assassin's Creed. And I had never heard of it. I didn't play video games. And so this game was Assassin's Creed 3, which took place in the American Revolution, and I sang as a British soldier, and I sang as an American soldier, and I sang and played as a tavern musician, because they're in the game you can go into pubs and they're musicians playing. Originally they were going to do motion capture. They were going to put those sensors on us and film us playing so that they could animate, but they ended up doing it a different way. It was still cool, but we also sang as sailors. And so we sang a few sea shanties for AC3, and that was such a hit. The sea shanties part of the game was such a hit that the whole next game, Assassin's Creed 4, was basically devoted to sea shanties. So I recorded another, I don't know the numbers, I think it was 35 or something, and then another game called Rogue, another 53. So basically I instantly became known, myself and the other guys who were singing with me, Nils Brown, Michiel Schrey, Clayton Kennedy, a few other guys. We got known by gamers all over the world for doing this. So that was pretty cool. So then, I did that for a while. And then in the pandemic, when all my gigs got canceled, I started this series called the Shanty of the Week, where every week I sit right here in front of different instruments, and I would present a shanty and teach a bit about it and what its use on the boat historically and the types of shanties. And then I would teach people the lines to sing, and then I'd sing it with sort of 40 of myself in the background. And so that's the series I did every week for 60 weeks. For that, I had to do a lot of research into sea shanties, because my background is not as a sailor, nor as a historian. I really am a folk singer. So I ended up, learning quite a lot about the shanties. So first of all, what is a sea shanty? What does it mean? It means a work song that is used to help the sailors coordinate their efforts so that the work happens more efficiently. And the basic form of a sea shanty is the shantyman sings a line and the crew sings a response. Usually the shantyman line changes every time, and often the crew lines repeat. Usually the most basic form that we find often is called the halyard shanty. It comes from the term haul yards for pulling lines for different purposes on the ship. And the halyard shanties have, every verse has a shantyman line, a response, shantyman line, response. And those two responses, the crew responses, they're the same every verse. The shantyman lines change, and they can be telling a story, or they can be talking about how terrible it is on the ship, or talking about how mean the captain is, or it can be anything. And in fact, often the shantyman will sort of make up the lines as he goes along to fit the situation. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Sailor John was dancing funny last night, so we'll sing a verse about that. And the crew responses, because they always repeat, they always come back. Even if you didn't know the song, by the second verse you should know the song, and you should be able to do it. So I'm gonna teach you guys a song here, and then we can sing it. Okay, so. And you guys are in your class, don't be shy, and even the oceanographers, you guys can sing it too. So shanties are never accompanied by instruments. I'm just doing this to get the note. This is called Holloway Joe, and this one is very simple. It's a short haul shanty, meaning it's used for jobs that aren't very long, that don't take very long to do, and your response is always the same. You say, "Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe." And the big haul, the big pull that the crew do would be on the last syllable, would be on Joe. And sometimes people for this one say haul away, haul, but way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. That's how it goes, okay? So you say that after every line I sing, okay? I'm gonna do the first couple with you, but then you're on your own. All right? I see we got the oceanographers getting ready to dance to it. Here we go. Hey, don't you see that black cloud rising? Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. I said, hey, don't you see that black cloud still rising? Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. When I was a little boy, so my mother told me, way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. That if I didn't kiss the girls, my lips would grow all moldy. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. I sailed the seas for years, I never knew what I was missing. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. But then I set my sails afore the gills and started kissing. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. So that's an example of a short haul shanty, a really well-known one called Haul Away Joe. So that's now you're into it. Now you guys are you're already shanty singers. So that's the next kind of shanty is called a capstan shanty, which is basically the same thing, but then there's after every verse there's a chorus. So you have shantyman line, refrain, shantyman line, refrain. Thank you, Gabrielle. And then the chorus, which everyone sings all together. Now a capstan is this thing here. I don't have fancy videos like the other guys. I have photocopies. So you can see the sort of barrel-shaped thing in the middle. It's called the capstan, and those are capstan bars that are sticking out of it. And the crew, they turn the capstan around, and that job, it can take hours. The capstan is used for either hauling up the anchor or for warping the ship out of the harbor. So you attach to to a wire which is attached to the end of the pier or something, and you wind it around to pull the ship out of the harbor until you get into some wind. Or it's used also for loading cargo onto or off of the ship. And really, the capstan, you can be doing that for hours. So basically, any song will do that's really rhythmic. And the reason they have a chorus on them is to make it longer. So, you know, a song that would take 10 minutes, you add the chorus. Now it's a 20-minute song. So the one I like to use for this is called Bully in the Alley. And let's get the sheets here. And Bully in the Alley is a capstan shanty. It's a very well-known one. And let's get a note here. So your part is, I sing, help, I sing something like, I walked up to the anchor end, and you say, way, bully in the alley. That's your first line, right? Way, bully in the alley. And then I say, I bars the door, and I walked right in, and you say, bully down in Shinbo now. Now remember, these songs aren't for listening to. If you're sitting there listening, oh, he's singing it. That's not it. These songs are made for singing in, for singing along, joining in, okay? So those are your first line. Way, bully in the alley. And your second line is, bully down in Shinbo now. And then the chorus is, oh, help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley. Way, bully in the alley. Help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley. Bully down in Shinbo now. Okay, so let's do a few verses of that. I'll start in the next verse, eh? And there was Sally that I loved so dearly, way, bully in the alley. Sally got well nigh almost nearly, bully down in Shinbo now. So help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, way, bully in the alley. Help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, bully down in Shinbo now. Oh, Sally could dance and Sally could spin, way, bully in the alley. Her smile was wide as a broad-faced grin, bully down in Shinbo now. Oh, help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, way, bully in the alley. Help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, bully down in Shinbo now. For 7 long years I courted Sally, way, bully in the alley, but all she did was dilly and dally, bully down in Shinbo now. So help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, way, bully in the alley. Help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, bully down in Shinbo now. So there we go. We did some good capstan turning, didn't we? The other kind of shanty that we see a lot is a pumping shanty. The other tedious job on the ship is pumping the water out of the hold, because I mean, even on modern ships, you know, as Greg was saying, water gets in, but especially on old wooden ships, lots of water would get in. So one of the jobs that the crew hated the most was pumping the water out of the hold. So, you know, and you know, we talked about hauling on lines, and we talked about heaving the capstan. So if a song says haul, it's a halyard shanty, and if a song says heave, usually it's a capstan shanty. But songs that say heave and haul, those are pumping shanties, because you're heaving and hauling and heaving and hauling. So that's it. So this is a really well-known one that can be used for many jobs, but is often used for as a pumping shanty. And there are lots of good nautical terms in here too. So this is a good lesson. It's called Leave Her, Johnny. In your first line, I sing, oh, my poor old mother, she wrote to me. And you say, leave her, Johnny, leave her. She wrote to me to come home from sea. And it's time for us to leave her. And the chorus is, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow. And it's time for us to leave her. You got it? Okay. If you don't, see, that's the point. Even if you don't got it, by the second verse you will, right? So, beware those packet ships, I say. Leave her, Johnny, leave her, for they'll steal your stores and your clothes away, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. I hope that you will never be. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. On a gallows ship, the likes of she, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. We were made to pump all night and day. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. We were all so tired with not a word to say, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. We'll make her fast and we'll stow our gear. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the girls are waiting on the pier, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. And it's time for us to leave her. So that was Leave Her, Johnny. So there you go. They have a few kinds of shanties. There's one more that I want to look at because of the character in it. I know we're almost getting into question period, but this is a song about a guy called Storm Along. And this is him here. He's on a regular ship. He's a giant. He's sort of like a nautical Paul Revere, Paul Bunyan, nautical Paul Bunyan, and all kinds of stories about him. You know, he fought the Kraken. Where's the Kraken? I got to pick. Yeah, he fought the Kraken twice. Yeah, Storm Along. He was so tall. He wore regular ships he wore sharks as slippers, and his ship was so large that he had a stable of horses on it to get from one end to the other. And there are lots of songs about Storm Along and his funeral and all the things about him. So this is a Halyard shanty. So your first line is storm, storm along. That's your first line. Storm, storm along. And your second line is storm along, me Johnny. Okay, so I'll sing them with you from the beginning. Okay. Storm, storm along and around we'll go. Storm, storm along. Oh, storm along and around we'll go. Storm along, me Johnny. Oh, stormy was our captain bold. Storm, storm along. A grand old man from the days of old. Storm along, me Johnny. Oh, stormy loved a sailor's song. Storm, storm along. His voice was true and his heart was strong. Storm along, me Johnny. But now old Stormy's dead and gone. Storm, storm along. We'll mark the place where he was done. Storm along, me Johnny. I wish I was old Stormy's son. Storm, storm along. I'd build a ship of 1,000 ton. Storm along, me Johnny. Storm along, me Johnny. So there you have an overview of a few shanties. And if people have questions, I can take the questions now.
Storm along with Johnny. Thank you so much. And I can imagine getting through heavy workloads and challenging situations with a great sing-along. So thank you. We have some questions. There's a general thank you to you. The students really enjoyed your singing and shanties. Have you ever composed any music?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I consider the arrangements I do of these songs, you know, where I decide what harmonies go where and what voices sing what. That's sort of a type of composition, and I've been doing that kind of work for different projects for the last 20 years or so, with instruments and voices also. But I did do a whole album of music that I composed. There's this poems from the Middle Ages written by women. That the poems existed, and we know that they were sung, but none of the music that they were sung to exists. So I recomposed music sort of in my own style. But those are the kinds of compositions I do.
Okay, thank you. You showed us a few of your instruments at the beginning. Where do you get your instruments, and do you have a particular favorite?
Yeah. So usually the instruments are given to me. You like my mother brought this from the Soviet Union in 1985. Once people know that you play music, they give you things. On the other side here, there's a Hammond organ and a piano that were given to me, and there's another weird banjo down there, and this sort of mandolin thing there. My dad made that and gave it to me. My favorite instrument is my main instrument here, which is it's my Irish bouzouki. This is what I play. I play this in my gigs. It's a little bit out of tune, but this is what I play, you know, every night, and it's been my main instrument for 25 years. So this and not just any Irish bouzouki. This particular one, I have had other ones, but I never liked them as much. And I every time I get a new bouzouki, I sell it because I don't like it as much as this one. So that's the kind of stuff. Those are my instruments.
Awesome. Another question from students. Where have you performed?
Well, like I said, most of my playing these days, or the last 20 years, has been in Irish pubs. But I've played big concert halls. I played at Place des Arts in Montreal. I got this gig playing mandolin with the Montreal Symphony. And that actually, I went to Vienna and played in the concert house in Vienna, and the concert hall in Madrid and Cologne. I played at the Chan Center in Vancouver with a big choir. It was my group of shanty singers backed up by a men's choir of 60 voices. I played at Rideau Hall. I've played different festivals and venues. Yeah, that's most of it. I guess the ones I did with the symphony were the most notable places.
Thank you. We have another question. Have you learned other types of music, or do you have plans to learn another instrument?
I have the different kinds of music are all, like I said before, within folk music. You know, French medieval music, or Arabic music, or like Arabic folk music, or yeah, the Celtic musics. I started learning banjo a few years ago, so I did a bit of old time music. But you know, you can't really plan to learn an instrument. It just happens to you. You just like one day I went in to buy a new case for my bouzouki. I went into the shop, and they didn't have any. Okay, one second. I'll be right. They didn't have any, but they had this. They didn't have any cases, but they had a red plastic trombone. So I was like, oh, and they were selling it for really cheap. So you don't plan to learn. It happens by accident. You know, the other day someone gave me a concertina, which is sort of like a small hexagonal accordion, and again, you know, you say, oh, he's a musician. Let's give him. So someone gave me this the other day, and so it's like, okay, well, let's see what this thing does. I might be backwards. So. Like I said, it just happens. So no, I don't have any plans, but I don't need to.
Awesome.
Yes, the expert is a musician. Yeah.
There you go. And have you ever sung shanties on a ship?
Not yet. Not yet. That's one of our. It's one of the plans for with my group La Nef, is to do some ocean crossing where we designate ourselves as shanty singers on the ship. I'm gonna make a documentary about that if we ever do it. That's for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, I think, are there any other questions? Well, singing on the ship would be cool.
Yes.
And
yeah.
your recount of the experience with the choir, that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
You
that was
managed
really
to
fun.
wow the students there.
Good.
Okay, so no more questions. We're going to thank Seán for sharing and getting us to learn a little about shanties and to participate in a sing-along. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Gabrielle, and students, for your participation in this session and for your awesome questions, your curiosity and interest. Appreciate it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And with that, thanks to Greg and Allie again. And we're going to say goodbye to everyone.